Welcome to Women Lead, a production of the Women of Color Empowerment Institute. We are your hosts. I'm Kathy Eggleston.
And I'm Bernadette Norris Weeks.
Today, we're talking about aging with our special guest, Dionne, who is the Director for State Operations for AARP Florida. She's a powerhouse of a woman and a true friend of the Institute.
Indeed, she is, Kathy. And according to her boss, Joanne Jenkins, who is the CEO of AARP, we are living longer, and the fastest growing age segment in the American population is the group of people who are over the age of 85, with the second fastest growing segment being people who are living over 100.
Wow!
Yes, and it stands to reason that we are going to live more time in adulthood than in childhood.
Okay, well, AARP has been focused on the last few years on how to disrupt aging and also on getting rid of outdated stereotypes about aging. Because life expectancy is longer than before, AARP is helping its members and the community to focus more on health, wealth, and self.
Yes, Dionne and AARP promote owning our age and taking control of our health by being empowered users of the healthcare system and focusing on self by reimagining who we are and who we can be beyond the age of 50. AARP is not the AARP of years gone by. In addition to some of the many things that Dionne will talk with us about, AARP has been trying to educate the public on the importance of saving so that we do not outlive our wealth. Approximately 10,000 people are turning age 65 every day, and this is projected to happen for at least the next decade.
All righty, well, that is important. Aging is going to happen to everybody.
That's right.
We all have parents. We're all aging. We generally have a generation a little bit behind us who needs to plan to live longer.
That's true. And the great thing about AARP is they're helping their members and the community to understand that, you've got to think about that planning sooner than later. You need to be thinking about it in your 20s, 30s, and of course beyond.
Yeah, and I think AARP does a great job at reaching out not just to the senior population who are its members, but, sticking a toe into communications with some of these younger audiences who do need to begin thinking, I may live 40 years, 50 years beyond, what my ancestors did.
That's true. And don't forget about the AARP benefits that you get. I'm a big breakfast person, and I take advantage of that AARP card whenever I can. So we are so excited that we have Dionne with us today. We'll be right back with Dionne, who is the Director of State Operations for AARP Florida. Stay tuned. At the Women of Color Empowerment Institute, our mission is to enhance and expand leadership by women of color. We do this in a variety of different ways, including but not limited to providing mentorship opportunities for young professionals where we assist in helping to create paths to leadership. We empower women to develop capacities for social change. We produce programs that promote heritage awareness, and we provide training opportunities for business and government. Our institute holds seminars focused on professional success techniques, and we host many other events such as our popular Advocates for Change and Leaders Connect. The Women of Color Empowerment Institute publishes a magazine called Women Lead. Our signature event is the Women of Color Empowerment Conference, a yearly conference where hundreds of leaders gather from all across the United States and beyond. To learn more about membership and how you can support our programs or be a sponsor of the Women Lead TV, visit us at nationalwomenofcolor.com. Again, that's nationalwomenofcolor.com.
The law office of Austin Pammies Norris Weeks Powell is a full-service law firm practicing in the area of governmental law, including the representation of municipalities, civil litigation, personal injury, real estate, and corporate transactional matters. With over 100 years of collective experience, our attorneys are admitted to practice before state courts, federal courts, and the United States Supreme Court. We are conveniently located in downtown Fort Lauderdale and can be reached at 954-768-9770. Or for more information about the law firm of Austin, Pammies, Norris, Weeks, Powell, visit our website at apnwlaw.com. That's apnwlaw.com.
Welcome back to Women Lead. We are pleased to have with us Dionne Polite, Director for State Operations for AARP Florida. Welcome to Women Lead, Dionne.
Thank you so much, my sisters.
Yes.
Glad to be here.
Well, we are so happy to have you.
Thank
I
you.
must say, Dionne, you are just a joy. You are a friend of the Institute, a true friend. Not only have you supported us as a mentor in the past for our mentee program, but you have also supported us in the way of just sponsoring various events that we've done as an institute. You believed in us from the very beginning.
Absolutely.
We appreciate you for it. We do.
Absolutely. Iron sharpens iron. That's
Yes,
how I say it.
we'll take that.
Thank you.
Well, Dionne, we want to talk all about you and AARP, so I've got to ask you first, how did you get involved with AARP?
It is the funniest story ever. So in 2009, I had surgery. I had breast cancer and had surgery. And was on disability, right? So I was home on sick. And went out to a social function with a friend of mine, and he and I were just walking around talking, and he said, Dionne, the Holy Spirit just told me I have to get your resume. And I was like, what for, Greg? And he says, oh, no, I just need it. I need it. I don't know why yet, but I need it. And I said, okay, I'll send it to you on Monday. I sent it to him. He had a friend, her name was Beth, who happened to be the state director at AARP, and they were looking for a consultant to help them with building their volunteer corps. So he sent my resume on to Beth. Meanwhile, I was at the American Diabetes Association, right? So, I had been doing that sort of work for about 12 years. And he sent it to Beth, and I got a call on Tuesday afternoon asking if I would come and meet with Beth and some of her staff in the New York City office of AARP. I said, sure thing. Daryl drove me there. And so as I was walking out of the car, he says, how long is this going to be, babe? What do you think? I said, when they see me, big, black, gap tooth, ball-headed, 3 minutes tops.
Oh, stop
I said,
it.
AARP is like a white organization. They're not ready for somebody who looks like me. So I walk into the office, and I greet some of the people that I meet and tell them who I am. The whole energy was so amazing from hello. It really caused me to say, whoa, this is real different. And so I accepted the opportunity and was a consultant until the end of the year when Barry Rand, who was then the CEO, he's passed on now, but he was the CEO then, created 10 positions, associate state directors that would focus on multicultural initiatives. AARP they really wanted to be intentional with touching people of color across the country. So I was offered that position, and ta-da! Here I am.
Here you are, and thank God
Here I
for
am.
it.
So I was 6 years in New York doing that work, and now 6 years here in Florida.
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
great. Well, we talked a little bit in the intro about AARP and the many things that you all focus on. Tell us some things that our audience may not know about AARP.
There are many, many things. I think people get caught up in that AARP and the reputation that's been, we've been around for over 60 years, right? So, and it has historically been an organization associated with older white people. And quite frankly, that's the reason that I got here to Florida is that Joanne gave me a call and said, we need to have somebody of color in leadership in Florida. Joanne, who is our CEO, also happens to be my mentor. We are really, especially here in Florida, we are intentional with how we engage and touch our members and those that are potential members. That's also a big deal, right? Because we want to build a comfort level with community that they understand that, getting a card at the age of 50, it's not a death sentence. It's actually an invitation into how to live your life the best way possible.
That's right.
Informed and educated and empowered.
Wow.
Empowering.
Boom, boom.
I love that. Alrighty. So, speaking of Florida, what are some of the initiatives that you particularly have brought to the state of Florida?
Sure. So, one of the first things that I set about doing was really building an infrastructure in communities of color that would allow us to really have a relationship. For me, I found great success in really focusing on the things that matter. So I was intentional with connecting with churches, faith-based organizations, with community-based organizations such as the Women of Color, Urban League, different organizations like that. And just really going and talking, listening, and learning, right? That was my first step into Florida, and understanding that Florida itself is an interesting state.
It is.
It continues to be a state that I say, whoo, y'all are interesting. And I found that I'm based in Doral in South Florida, but have responsibility for the entire state. And I found that what I would experience in South Florida is vastly different than what I experienced in North Florida. In South Florida, another big thing we focus on is fraud prevention, because according to research, Florida is in the top 2, if not top 1, state for fraud, and fraud particularly against older adults. Also, another thing that's really relevant here in Florida is around aging in place. So people understanding that, like the 26 steps I have in my house now, is that something I'm going to be able to want to endure when I am 75, and so how do we make the changes now when we're able to, planning for our future.
Absolutely.
Planning for our future. So there's a lot of conversation around that.
Let's talk a little bit about hurricane preparedness.
Oh.
Now, this is Florida. We have hurricanes. And when you are in a situation where so many older people are here and they may not know how to put up their shutters, or they may not know what kind of food or whatever they need to have in their homes.
Right.
I mean, what do you all do? Do you have any programs in
So
place?
we do. We have a huge program focused around disaster preparedness. And in that program, we take people through the steps of what you need to do. And it's particularly nuanced now as well because of the pandemic, right? So we're educating people on safety measures, things you need to have in place should we have to encounter a hurricane or some sort of disaster. So we have conversations around how to prepare for any emergency, making sure you have your medications. We encourage people to have a stay bag and a go bag. And the stay bag, the things that you need while you're going to stay where you are, right? And the go bag, the things you're going to need if you have to go. And those include your medications. Those include your important papers. Always have your documentation all in one place. We have a caregiver's resource site. So where they can go and access what are the things you need to make sure are in place, what are the documents you need to make sure that are in place, what are the things that should be red flags in a conversation that you're having with a potential support person. What does that look like? These are the numbers you can call to verify whether or not you're with a credible individual or entity.
I went to an event years ago, and I think you were there. And there was a book release about disrupt aging, and your boss, Joanne, was giving a talk about it. And can you talk a little bit about the book and just tell us some of the things?
And I want to make sure there are 4 points that she always talks about, and I'm looking down because I want to make sure I say it. And that's freedom to earn, freedom to learn, freedom to live where you want to live, and freedom to pursue happiness. Those are the 4 components, right? So, and I'm going to narrow it down even more into health, wealth, and self. So those components, understanding that, how you live your life is largely dependent on you. The decisions that you make, you own that power. And, there's certain communities that get that right away. But for us, it's like, we have to continue to say, you own your power. You own your power. And what does that look like? That means preparing yourself for your future, right? So as far as your wealth goes, you know the life you want to live. You know how you want to live your life. What are you doing now in preparation for that, right?
So that, and I'm loving this health, wealth, and self, and just your message to be all you are.
That's
be
right.
all and be all you can be as you continue to age. So let's talk about the wealth and the wealth planning that young people are going to have to start making well before they get into their AARP years, if you will, in order to have that future that they want. What are you doing to reach out to young people, and what kind of programs?
So we're educating them, right? So we're educating. A lot of what we do, it's done intentionally with the goal of not only teaching the older adult that's in the home, but hopefully, and I say this a lot, and it comes from Dr. Martin Luther King, each one reach one, teach one, right? So we are disseminating information that we want you to understand that you need to, as a responsible adult, you need to let it trickle down and let it trickle back up. You become the expert to that person that you're trying to teach or to be an example for, so they understand it. You have to be prepared. You have to, and it's simple things we talk about, and we do a lot of this. It's been different in the last year and a half, almost 2 years, because of the pandemic. But we do a lot of these conversations with faith-based organizations, with community-based organizations, with youth-based organizations, right? We have to be intentional with preparing ourselves for our own futures. Mm-hmm. We can't depend on anybody else.
Yes. Can you talk with us a little bit about the health focus that AARP has?
Sure. So reiterating to folks that this is your temple, right? You have the responsibility of taking care of your temple. And what does that look like? For me, it should be that I'm out there running or biking or whatever. But I'm not as diligent as I should be. But I have an understanding that is an important component to how I want to, like I talk about, what I'm going to look like at 70 and 80 and 90. It's not going to happen by magic. I am responsible for some of the steps that I take. And so it's around physical health, but it's also around mental health as well.
Absolutely.
Right? So it's how we see, I find, and I've had this interaction many times with some older adults, they become almost angry that, you're talking to them about, well, you should begin to watch how you eat. And you should begin to, just incorporate a couple of steps, 10,000 steps a day. They become angry. And it looks as though it's projected at you, but it's actually anger at themselves, mm-hmm. because they just are not ready to embrace that, it's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. You're just not going to continue to be tight and right if you're not doing anything mm-hmm. to make sure you remain that way. So in Joanne's book, she talks about that. It's making healthier choices, making sure that you're aware of your mental health. That's been a huge challenge since the pandemic, because we've seen that many people, because of the shutdown, because of loneliness and isolation and not being able to interact and socialize and connect, there's been a huge surge of, especially with older adults, of suicides, mm-hmm. and that is awful. That is awful.
It is.
One of the things that we're doing is we're offering virtual interactions now with AARP. So people can go to aarp.org/Florida and get a whole selection of whether you want to do yoga in the chair, or if you want to learn about exercising, while you're in your living room, or their mental health. There are all these different video options that people can just connect with,
sure.
and and just be able to learn and to hopefully grow, right? We also have two things that we do that are specific here in Florida. My team has created what they call the Sunshine Club. So there are a group of volunteers that are provided like cards and all the things that you need in order to write a note to somebody, to say thank you to an essential worker, or somebody that may be a veteran in a nursing home or in a hospital, to say, you're going to be okay, I'm sending sunshine your way. A perfect stranger, touching on human kindness. And then there is, we deliver through volunteers cookies to someplace, or a phone call, a 2-minute phone call to somebody you don't know, mm-hmm. just to say, what's the weather like where you are? Just to really engage people, and hopefully,
really make a difference.
Yeah, it really can, because you then start to feel, if you're somebody that's home by themselves. Like, I have an aunt, she's 82 years old, in Brooklyn. She's not leaving Brooklyn. She needs to leave Brooklyn, but she's single. She wants to, as you all know, I'm from the Caribbean. She wants to be able to walk down the street and get your plantain, and when that can't happen, she's not for it. So even I am really focused. I talk to her every week, right? Because she doesn't have any children. She's a spinster, my father's only sister, and it makes a big difference to her.
Sure.
It makes a big difference.
Dionne, this is great information. Thank you so much. This is very helpful, I know, to our viewers. We'll be right back in 2 minutes with Dionne Polite, who is the Director of State Operations for AARP Florida. At the Women of Color Empowerment Institute, our mission is to enhance and expand leadership by women of color. We do this in a variety of different ways, including but not limited to providing mentorship opportunities for young professionals where we assist in helping to create paths to leadership. We empower women to develop capacities for social change. We produce programs that promote heritage awareness, and we provide training opportunities for business and government. Our institute holds seminars focused on professional success techniques, and we host many other events such as our popular Advocates for Change and Leaders Connect. The Women of Color Empowerment Institute publishes a magazine called Women Lead. Our signature event is the Women of Color Empowerment Conference, a yearly conference where hundreds of leaders gather from all across the United States and beyond. To learn more about membership and how you can support our programs or be a sponsor of the Women Lead TV, visit us at nationalwomenofcolor.com. Again, that's nationalwomenofcolor.com.
The law office of Austin, Pammies, Norris, Weeks, Powell is a full-service law firm practicing in the area of governmental law, including the representation of municipalities, civil litigation, personal injury, real estate, and corporate transactional matters. With over 100 years of collective experience, our attorneys are admitted to practice before state courts, federal courts, and the United States Supreme Court. We are conveniently located in downtown Fort Lauderdale and can be reached at 954-768-9770. Or for more information about the law firm of Austin, Pammies, Norris, Weeks, Powell, visit our website at apnwlaw.com. That's apnwlaw.com.
Be sure to save the date for the 10th Annual Women of Color Empowerment Conference to take place September 11th, 2021 at the Hilton Beach Resort in Fort Lauderdale. Be sure to go on nationalwomenofcolor.com to find out more about sponsorship opportunities and how you can be a part of this amazing conference on social justice in America. We'll see you there, and until then, be empowered.
And we're back with more Women Lead with Dionne Polite, Director of State Operations for AARP Florida. And Dionne, you were just telling us more about how you reach out to millennials, and there are some things that they need to think about with regard to aging, so it's never too early.
I'll start first by saying millennials will find, and there's research that substantiates this, and that is that millennials will find themselves in the role of caregiver. It's just what's happening, and so they need to be prepared, right?
Kathy and I was speaking about how people that at least I've encountered, when I ask them, how are you managing to look so good and live so long, people 80 and beyond, they will often tell me that it's because they don't worry about anything.
Amen.
Anything.
Amen.
And so I'm thinking that has to be a part of the mental health piece
Absolutely.
that you just talked about.
Absolutely.
And so what plays into people being in a position where they don't have to worry about anything?
Well, I think it's about being prepared, and I think it really is having the mindset that that stuff that you went through when you were younger, you've learned from that, right? So you guys have heard me say this. So from 1 to 50, you're learning, and from 50 on is when you're living, right? Because you got those kinks worked out and everything, and there's a sense of freedom that you get in knowing, I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
One of the things that you mentioned as you were talking about with engaging with seniors and how you're just doing kind of small acts of kindness.
Yeah.
With so many seniors, but you were also mentioning populations that are caregivers.
Yes.
And that is so important. We've been through such a difficult time, and a little bit to the health piece, so many people have put off in this environment taking
Yeah.
care of
Yeah.
routine
Self.
appointments
Yes.
Going back to
Yes,
self,
yeah,
right?
and,
yes.
and all of that. And we're, you know, the baby boomers are aging, and so we know we're getting into a situation where more and more folks are going to be in that position of being caregivers.
Yeah.
What do you recommend, and what does AARP say to them?
So ARP has an incredible caregivers resource center. It's online, and you can, from soup to nuts. One particular piece of collateral that's a part of that that we offer is something called a Prepare to Care manual. And it is, I'm actually using it myself now as I'm a long distance caregiver to my mother. And it takes you from the beginning, having a conversation with your loved one about their particular needs, and all the way to the end. How do you prepare for that transition?
Sure.
How do you find, because that's the other thing that happens with us in communities of color, right? We wait until, the person has transitioned to talk about, we need money for the funeral. So let's put a plan in place. Let's avoid, that level of stress that can come about when you're not prepared.
You got to tell us your TikTok story.
Before the pandemic, most people thought, oh, I don't have to worry about AARP, blah, 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 blah. There's a TikTok going on right now. A young Caucasian man, he's in his 30s, and he's talking about this amazing find that he discovered during the shutdown, and it's AARP and the membership. He heard his grandparents and his parents talking about it, so he decided, you know what, I'm going to apply and see if I'm going to get the same discounts. Guess what? Yes, you do. So,
really?
But that TikTok has it through, and of course, social media. It's up. The uptick in our membership is about 65,000. So
Wow.
that is amazing, right? That and we're assuming because I haven't heard anyway whether or not those are all young people or just people that were just inspired of any age by this messaging. I mean, and he just did that on his own.
That's amazing.
So there's that. Yeah, and it really, I mean, it matters, right? It's great to know that you have a resource of information and tools that will really align with how you want to live your life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, you've heard it right here. Everything you needed to know about AARP. We hope you've enjoyed the show. Dionne, thank you so much for joining us today on Women Lead.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
Thank you.
you.
I love you guys so much. Thank you. And thank you for the great work that you're doing with women of color. It's amazing. You're a great partner for us to have.
Thank you for your support. Always.
Absolutely. And we will see you on the next show of Women Lead. And until then, be empowered.